welcome to episode 6 of Behind the Glass Doors with Macca, Messina and Merton. Today we're going to have a chat about event promotion and one that I was actually involved with, an event that I run myself called Bricktober, and I basically handed the reins to PWD to create a bit of hype around the event and drive some ticket sales. So welcome, boys. How are we?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
very good. How are you?
Another day in paradise, eh?
Yeah.
Here we are, big smiles. Macca's got a new haircut, especially for Behind the Glass Doors, looking very, very dapper, if I do say so. But I'll give you a bit of background if I can. So Bricktober is an annual event that's run from the Ascot Rotary Club, which I'm part of. We host it at Curtin Stadium. It's always been fairly successful, but I was always doing the marketing with the team, the committee myself. Last few years, I've handed the reins to PWD, but I think it's fair to say last year was really the one where I said, Chris, here you go, mate. Here's the ads that I've done previously. Yeah. And he politely said, they're okay. But I think what he really meant was they were horrendous. So, and we, well, we'll get more to the numbers. But, I said, here's the concept.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mackie.
No, I was going to say, why don't you share what made you come across and how you got involved in.
Yeah, so I was asked to get involved probably eight years ago, October, as the publicity manager, or I think that was the title, publicity manager, but really to drive ticket sales. So thinking that I was a bit of a guru with this stuff, and I know more than most, I would say, because of the industry I work in.
Yeah.
I thought I can do it myself. I can save some money. I can do the ads. But what I realised after doing it for a few years, that there was a lot more potential there. The artwork and more the creative side of the campaign was pretty basic. And I had an external art house who was doing it for me. I've been at PWD 3 years, and after the first year, I thought, you know what, I've got some super smart people here who can take over this. And as I said, I handballed to you and your team and said, guys, what can you do for this? So talk us through that process, mate. What were your thoughts?
Well, first off, I love this project. This was from a creative point of view, this was the perfect storm. Because not only, I think it helps too, because I'm kind of a pop culture nerd when it comes to all this. I've got action figures on my desk. I've got, big theater room at home with all kinds of pop culture stuff. So, and Lego kind of falls into that category of being something where you have kind of a built-in audience who's really excited about the product, but it's split across a whole bunch of different demographic groups. So you've got families and kids who love building with Legos with their kids. You've got hardcore builders who take this very seriously. So they're almost kind of like micro engineers, and the stuff they create is like mind blowing. And then you've got basically just kind of people who just enjoy, the nostalgia of it all, where they built Legos as a kid, and then they, now they're older, in their late 30s or 40s or whatever, and they come in and kind of live vicariously through some of the builds and watching that type of stuff.
And I think, sorry to jump in there, I think that was a challenge you always had. There's all those different demographics, families, the exhibitors who actually display at the event, and trying to, I guess, make it fun, which is fun, right? A Lego event, it should be fun. It was always a little bit too serious. So the marketing campaign and the creatives didn't really line up with the actual event itself being a fun event. So that's fun.
And I think that's why a lot of our kind of byline was build, play, get inspired, right? So it kind of took on all three of those demographics. We could put that together. So the word build gave you the feeling of this interactivity that you're going to have, because you had these building pits and people could do it. Play, obviously kids can play with some of the more kind of technic stuff where kind of you can have like races and all that. And then get inspired is just people who really enjoy seeing these amazing, constructions done in Lego. So that being we spearheaded it with that kind of art messaging. The great part about it was that it had all the components of what it needed. The problem was it just didn't have a voice yet. So what we tried to do was, which was really good, because the years before, you and I would have a chat, and I'd always keep telling you to preempt, like, okay, next year or this year that you're going to currently have your event, I want photos of this and photos of that and video, right? And I just say, walk around with your phone. It doesn't have to be anything.
I was a massive kind of stalker, just going around, and I obviously got permission.
It was great. It was great.
So.
But that's really because we knew, like, if we got this picked up the next year, having a lot of video and good photography, just basically of the tables, then we had enough material where we could kind of, because the first time that we got involved before we got kind of into the full mix of it all, we just kind of had a few things that were given to us from yourself,
Exactly
just
right,
in
yeah.
terms of photographs, and you can use this and not use this. But this time we were able to kind of help create a little bit of art direction for the next year, talking to you and saying, while you're there, here's kind of a little tick list when you ever get a chance. Get us this material, and next year we're going to have so much more
Yeah.
that we can work with.
And a big part of that, we used it for the video on the homepage, which I know you love
Yeah,
that.
well,
right.
But it was also great because over the 2 years I've been watching Bricktober and how you guys have been hearing you on that first year and how many inquiries came through when they're making their bookings online, and then going to the second year, listening to yourself, Chris, making the changes, and then with Mike doing the social media ads and pushing that out there, how the numbers and the tickets sold so much sooner.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And the event seemed to pick up a whole different level.
Absolutely.
And listening to the feedback when you were on board there on, what was it, the Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, yep.
That listening to how the families were, the individuals, you also do the special needs and cater for those sort of children and people out there as well.
Yeah.
Which was great to hear.
Yeah, phenomenal. And
But so hearing why I say that is the work done behind the scenes to then hearing all the results and the outcome of a not-for-profit sort of great to hear.
And all the money raised goes to charity, so it's a really good cause. But, you know, something that I'll bring up then, you're exactly right. I had multiple comments on the day from people, because we have a few vendors there, like there's a coffee machine, there's some like Midland Toy World are there.
Yeah.
And I had comments from some of the vendors, multiple comments saying, who did your social media stuff this year? Like, so it was noticed as well. It wasn't just random that it looked good for us. Like people kind and these aren't people who buy tickets, so they were people who actually saw it and thought, geez, what's going on there? So it was so good to hear.
It's so meaningful when they want to tell you about that, isn't it? That shows that it's really connected.
I didn't say Chris Messina did it. I said, I did it myself. I didn't. I said PWD.
Well, no,
so.
it was really good because, again, now so when we started the project, I kind of started with that idea of like looking at all the material we had to use. And because you gave us photos of the table, I now was able to look at the table and isolate different things on the table to be able to use as my kind of creative. So I would cut out all these different things that were already kind of sitting on the table and isolate them in their own kind of space on the ads. So we created a really cool, we had the stud background and we had the broken edges with a little bit of the yellow punching through. We took all the typography and just tipped it slightly. So it had this real fun, irreverent kind of feel to it. And then we would always play with, I think the best thing about those ads was that we kind of broke a lot of rules. So we basically kept everything almost asymmetrical. Nothing really lined up.
It was fun though.
It was great. And that was the idea, is that Lego is already symmetrical. You have these bricks and you have this thing, and it is like this kind of orchestrated, but the fun aspect of it, there are no rules. You break the rules, you add weird things in different spots, and you create a new creature or something like that. So when we started putting the ads together, one, we wanted a visual that would create a brand voice. And this is a great representation of a brand voice as well, because every ad that went out felt like it had that same vibe. It was just basically different types of messaging.
It was consistent, very consistent with them. And they were different ads and had different imagery, but the kind of the look and feel of them was very, so instantly that's the Bricktober ad.
I'll post some in. I'll post some in.
Cool. You can see that right across the website now and everything that was behind it, which it did lack.
It did, 100%.
Beforehand.
But there was also freedom to play with messaging, and that was really the big one. So this is a great example of not only creative visually, but creative messaging. So you had last year, you had somebody who created an entire Yoda out of bricks, right?
Cool, huh?
And so we took that same image, put it into the broken kind of like layout, and we had "To Bricktober you will come." Right? So it's like "To Bricktober you will come," But that was the fun aspect of it, and even playing off the idea of like when we had that kind of Darth Vader version of the Lego one that somebody had created, we had just kind of like come to the fun side, but done in a way where it's like a lot more. It was just a lot more fun to look at. And then by taking all those elements, so we started with kind of static ads to kind of get the hype going. Then we started cutting videos together. So we'd cut reels together based on all the footage that you sent through, which was great because there was a lot of great little moments in there. There was a lot of motion, a lot of people, a lot of hands-on work, but also it showed you what you were going to kind of get when you went there. That was the missing component, I think, the years before.
It absolutely was.
Which is why when we said, okay, you come to the website, you have a static image of like a brick city or something like that. It says the name of the logo. but you don't see anything until you get to midway down the website about kind of what it is you're going to get into. The second you added a video background of that table, you know, that pan going across all those cars and all those really cool Star Wars themes and everything, you get a really good understanding of, oh, okay, this is what it's all about.
And I think with that, because you said the year before you need to get some footage, you alluded to.
Yeah.
So I probably got 120. So I think when you said, Chris, get some footage, you probably did, well, maybe you did want 120, but I chucked him on the drive, said, here you go, Chris. And you probably had a couple of hours work going through. But what we got from that initially was an amazing video for the homepage of the website, www.bricktober.info. Check it out. But and that was amazing. So not only were we generating good artwork for social media, but when people actually got to the website, it was doing its job as well. And it was more engaging. You could actually see what the event was about, which, as you said, it was lacking before. It was just like, oh, it's a Lego event. Yeah, whoopie do.
And again, the main thing too, what we talked about, I think in a few episodes before, was the idea of the 360-degree brand. And by doing what we did in terms of even when we had to put out the parking information.
That was cool.
There's a couple of ways you could have done that. You could have just had kind of a
and what I did
Maps.
previously, if I can jump in there, I would literally get a screenshot from Google Maps. Whack an arrow on them, say park here.
Yeah.
So what we decided was, instead of doing your kind of classic how to show where to park, we created the venue in Lego. So it looked like the stadium in Lego form, with all of these little Lego people in the car park with all these really fancy Lego cars and everything, like Lamborghinis and everything. And people kind of like, we had a little word balloon that was just kind of like, you know, woohoo, going to, you know, Bricktober. So by doing that, we gave all the information you would need to know about for the map. To know this is the street that you need to come off. But we made the street sign the Lego street sign. You know, so everything felt like
it was all on brand. It was all the brand that we created, really. Not,
So we were able to take a lot of the information that you usually can do, even for vendors and everything like that. Like when you're kind of representing the vendors and talking about who's going to be there, you still did it in a way where it had that same exact style. And then I think what worked really well for Bricktober was we created a sense of FOMO at the end, which was basically, as the ticket sales were really starting to crush, there was starting to become a capacity. And people would constantly, and we wanted to create that kind of surge right at the end to be like, hey, we're at 80% capacity. So we have this really cool Lego, kind of flat Lego graphic where it kept snapping in the different pieces to show how much capacity we have.
You were going in there daily. Every morning you were logging in. So my sales this.
And we talk a lot to clients about return on investment, right? So to put those in terms, we're going to have to wrap up soon, guys. Time has flown by, but we had our record-breaking year. We literally had to, because it's done in sessions, Bricktober, we literally had to close off sessions because we could not fit any more people in. And we had a bit of, I can't get in, but do you know what?
And that's what you want.
That's what you want,
That's what you want.
Obviously, we want to get everyone in there, but we literally couldn't. We had to close off online sales.
But you also, what you do is you hype up the next year as well. So the next year that Bricktober comes around, and if you want to do, you know, you keep the similar style, but you change it just a little bit so it feels a little bit new, but it still has that kind of vibe and that kind of fun factor to it. It was, like I said, it was a dream project. I was so happy that it worked out the way it did, and it was very smooth. And I was saying to you being the client was a little bit kind of daunting, because I remember when I created
I'm an asshole.
How was it? You can say how he was.
Well, we created all this really great material, and we liked it a lot. And then it was like having to present it to you and be like, have to show it and pitch it and board it. And you were right on board straight away. And you said, hey, look, you know what you're doing. I love everything you're doing. And you left us alone. So we were able to keep creating without really a lot of parameters to kind of, tether us.
And we spoke before about the ideal client. Let us do our job. And I